Welcome to Suri Cheating Story, where we share true stories of betrayal in love. Our channel brings heartfelt, real-life experiences from those who have endured the pain of infidelity. Whether you're facing challenges in your own relationship or seeking to better understand the complexities of love and trust, Suri Cheating Story is the place for you. Subscribe now to explore the emotional depths in the path to healing with us. This story took place a month ago during a nature trip with our group of 3 families. We've been friends since college, and most of us were around the same age, except for 2 of the wives who were younger than their husbands. My name is Sandra, and I went on this trip with my husband, Gene, and our 8-year-old twin children. One couple in our group had a 7-year-old daughter, and another couple had 2 sons aged 7 and 8. We had a well-chosen vacation group, all of us comfortable in each other's company. But there was something I wasn't expecting, old feelings that resurfaced. Back in college, I had liked Tom. But when we met, Tom was already in a relationship with his wife, and I had to accept that. Later, I met my husband, Gene, and my feelings for Tom gradually faded. But on this trip, something about being together again brought those old feelings back to the surface. In the years since college, I had grown comfortable in my marriage, and I believed my desires for Tom were long gone. But as we spent time together with our families, I couldn't help but notice how different everything felt. And suddenly I was reminded of the chemistry we once had. As time passed, life returned to its routine. However, amidst the busy days of family life, memories from the past only resurfaced during trips like this one. It was during these vacations, when we were accompanied by our children, that I found myself able to communicate more closely with Tom, albeit always in public, so as not to arouse suspicion from my own husband. By this time, the spark between Gene and me had cooled down. Years of domestic issues had taken their toll. Gene had stopped taking care of himself, and the man I married seemed distant and tired. He no longer dressed stylishly or seemed interested in looking good, unlike the man I met 10 years ago, who always looked sharp and confident. I admit, a part of me noticed how Tom still looked great. He was well-kept, well-dressed, and maintained his appearance, which I couldn't help but compare to John. I realized that part of Tom's style could be credited to his wife, but it was also due to the demands of his high-position job. He held a prominent position in a local company, and his successful career set him apart from John, whose career had never reached such heights. I couldn't deny that I had a growing interest in Tom. The camping site was quite large, and it offered plenty of opportunities to interact with him. I made sure to take every chance to flirt or have a conversation, even if I tried to keep it casual and discreet, knowing that I had to be careful not to raise any suspicions. This vacation trip completely changed everything. Upon our arrival, we set up tents, as is customary on any vacation. We started grilling meat, enjoyed drinks, and the children played on the side, covered with blankets to avoid disturbing each other. As the evening went on and the alcohol began to take effect, I could feel the atmosphere shift. The glow of the campfire cast a warm, intimate light over everything. My college friend's husband, Tom, seemed even more attractive than usual in that setting. The drinks had loosened everyone's inhibitions, and gradually, we all started to doze off in place, lulled by the warmth of the fire and the exhaustion of the day. My husband, John, suggested that I go to sleep, but I said I would sit by the campfire for a little while longer. He agreed and helped our friends get all the children to bed before heading to our own tent. As he disappeared into the tent, I was left by the campfire with Tom, the area now empty and quiet. That's when I noticed something. Tom wasn't in a hurry to leave either. We exchanged a glance, and I could see that he was thinking the same thing. The tension between us was palpable, and I couldn't deny the growing desire that was stirring inside me. It was as if the quiet of the night had made everything feel more intimate, and I realized that this could be the moment I had been waiting for. Tom didn't leave immediately. He lingered for a moment to escort his wife to their tent, as she had overindulged in alcohol that evening, which was unusual for her. I noticed the way he gently guided her away, and then just like that, we were alone. The night was quiet, and the others had already succumbed to the effects of the long journey and alcohol. It was in that stillness that I made the decision to invite him over. I suggested he sit next to me on the blanket by the campfire, and to my surprise, he gladly agreed. He began complimenting me, his voice low and sincere. "You've always been beautiful, Sandra," he confessed. "I've dreamed of you my whole life. You're even more beautiful than my wife." I was already enchanted. My heart raced, and I couldn't help but believe him. Tom had always been attractive to me, and in that moment, I was caught in the spell of his words. The warmth of the campfire, the intimacy of the night, and the alcohol all contributed to the atmosphere. I simply surrendered to the moment. It felt like a romantic scene straight out of a movie. Two souls drawn together by attraction, surrounded by the serenity of the forest. Everything felt perfect, until the moment was shattered by a sudden noise. From across the campsite, we saw Vincent, my close friend and the husband of one of the other women, peacefully sleeping in his tent with his wife. But now he was walking out of the tent. He seemed to be heading off to relieve himself. As Tom and I sat by the fire, enjoying the closeness we shared, we didn't expect the sudden disruption. We heard footsteps approaching, and there was Vincent, my close friend, husband to Olivia, walking out of his tent. He was likely heading off to relieve himself, but when he saw us, he smirked, a knowing look passing between us. He didn't say anything, just went about his business, as though nothing was out of the ordinary. We didn't even acknowledge him verbally, as we both trusted him to keep the secret. Vincent was trustworthy, and we were confident that he wouldn't tell anyone, but we didn't have long to continue our moment. Just after Vincent disappeared, Olivia, his impulsive wife, emerged from their tent. It was clear she had likely been woken up by him and stepped outside for some fresh air. Olivia, always bold and brash, didn't keep quiet. She had the sense not to shout and wake up the children, and for that, we were grateful. In a few short moments, Olivia burst into our tent, muttering something to my husband about betrayal. She didn't scream, but her words were sharp, cutting through the air. My husband, John, immediately jumped up, still groggy and annoyed at being woken up. It was clear he didn't understand the seriousness of the situation. Meanwhile, Tom and I exchanged a quick glance, knowing that everything had just taken a very different turn. Olivia continued her tirade after she made sure that my husband, Gene, was now aware of what was going on. She called for Ina, trying to pull her out of the tent, but her efforts were in vain. Ina was too drunk to respond coherently, and she couldn't be woken up easily. Perhaps, I thought, it was for the best. We could explain everything to her more clearly when she woke up with a clearer head. Once Gene realized that Olivia wasn't lying, his face twisted in anger, and without a second thought, he approached Tom. With a swift motion, he punched him square in the face. Tom stumbled back, but he didn't say a word. He took it, as if he knew it was deserved. Then my husband grabbed me by the hair and dragged me into our tent. It was clear that none of us, the guilty parties, had any words to justify our actions. The shame hung thick in the air. It was obvious we couldn't go on living as we had before. Inside the tent, I quietly asked him not to shout at me, hoping to avoid waking the children. To my surprise, he didn't shout. He just sat down beside me, his face buried in his hands. He didn't speak for a long while. When he finally did, his words came out in a rush, laced with bitterness. He listed all the insults he could think of, regrets pouring from him like a broken dam, so many years of neglect, of moments lost, of a marriage that had been quietly crumbling without either of us acknowledging it. The next evening, the four of us, Gene, Tom, his wife and I, decided to have a serious conversation. No more distractions, no more unnecessary witnesses. Olivia tried to intervene, offering her unwanted advice, but we quickly dismissed her, making sure she didn't interfere. I understood that she was upset, but this was something we had to face together. Tom's wife, Ina, didn't create a scene. She didn't strike me or shout. In fact, she was surprisingly calm. She was strong, something I had always known about her. But still, the situation was utterly insane, and none of us knew what to do next. We just stared at each other, blankly, hurt and silent. We didn't say much. There was nothing to say. Everything had already been said in the actions that led us here. I looked at June, and for the first time in years, I saw the exhaustion in his eyes. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the years of neglect that had led us to this point. I couldn't help but think that I had tempted him. I should have done it much earlier when Tom and Ina had just started dating. Maybe it would have been better to lose a friend than to lose my own happiness. Now, I had lost not only Ina but also Jean, my own husband, who clearly wouldn't be with me after everything that had happened. So many mistakes had been made, and now it was all unraveling. The weight of it was unbearable. In the end, we decided to officially get divorced. Each of us would lead our own lives, but pretending to be a normal family was no longer an option for any of us. What had happened was too significant to overlook. We chose, however, to maintain appearances, for the sake of the children. No matter how fractured our personal relationships had become, we still loved our children very much, and that was something we couldn't deny. I knew deep down that neither my husband nor my friend would ever forgive me for what I had done, but I couldn't ignore the fact that I now had a chance to build the kind of relationship I had always dreamed of. Despite everything, I wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. I had to seize it, even if it meant facing the consequences of my actions. After our return from the trip, my husband and I, along with the neighbors, tried to navigate the awkward reality of living in close proximity while dealing with the fallout of the situation. Despite everything, I continued to maintain communication with Tom. It wasn't easy, but I felt this was a chance I couldn't let go of. I even invited him out on a date. During that evening, Tom was unusually honest with me. He confessed that he could no longer lie to me, and he admitted that he had been cheating on his wife, not for the first time. It had always followed the same pattern, one that had worked with me in the past. If you find this story interesting and want to see more touching, tense, but meaningful situations, don't forget to subscribe to our channel today. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Share this story with your friends and remember to like the video so we can stay motivated to bring you more great and meaningful content. Thank you for watching and supporting us.